Hello everyone, welcome to Lockdown Civil. Today we talk about the Taiwan Strait Crisis in 1958, which is also called as the Quemoy Artillery Fight or the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis. This crisis was still the continuity of China's civil war. The nationalist government escaped to Taiwan, yet still garrisoned on some islands close to the mainland coastlines, such as at Quemoy, were very close to Xiamen, Fujian, and at Matsu. There they stationed hundreds of thousands of Kuomintang troops. On October 24th to 27th, 1949, the Liberation Army attacked Quemoy Island, also called the Battle of Guningtou. All the 10,000 landing troops were destroyed, and due to lack of air force and naval support, inexperience in sea battles, and a lack of reinforcement. After the Korean War, China's focus turned to Taiwan issue again, and Taiwan and America signed a joint defense agreement in December 1954, providing assistance in military and surveillance and information collection of mainland China. In January 1955, Chinese Liberation Army took over Yijiangshan Island and Dacheng Island, and again targeted on Quemoy, which consists of 12 islands and which total size of 151 square kilometers, 5 kilometers to Xiamen, and only 1.8 kilometers to the nearest areas controlled by the mainland. For military readiness, the Liberation Army had built already a railroad and 6 airports, and deployed more than 200 aircrafts, with 6 air defense artillery regiments and over 80 sea battleships. Internationally, in May and July 1958, a revolution occurred in Lebanon and Iraq. America sent troops to Lebanon and the British sent troops to Jordan. Chinese government claimed to support Middle East revolution with actual military operations in Taiwan Strait to divert the U.S. forces. And later, half of the Fleet 6 in Mediterranean was maneuvered to Taiwan Strait. America and the Soviet remain confronted yet. The Soviet leader Khrushchev said in 1956, after the party's 20th Congress, the Cold War doesn't necessarily mean a military clash. The Soviet preferred peaceful competition and coexistence with America. For nuclear war would only result in mutual destruction without winner. The leader and Khrushchev visited America and signed with Eisenhower the Camp David Agreement that for mutual compromise. China insists the relations between socialism and imperialism were irreconcilable. Without peace, only perpetual confrontation. In July 1958, Khrushchev visited China and talked about a joint fleet and a long wave station with China, to which a Chinese government regarded as infringement to China's sovereignty and integrity and refused. Neither Chinese government disclosed its plan of massive artillery shelling at Taiwan Strait. Soon after Khrushchev left, China began its military operations, which impressed people like the plan discussed already. Later, the Soviet sent its foreign minister Gromyko to Beijing, questioning why hadn't been informed earlier. Based on mutual agreement, the Soviet would be obliged to join the war if China engaged the fight with America. China said to the Soviet it didn't need help from Moscow in Taiwan issue. So since then, a rift occurred between the two countries. So on August 23rd, 1958, the mainland 459 artillery guns fired at the same time to the nationalist positions on Quemoy for 2 hours. Within the first day, about 50,000 bombs shelled and killed about 400 Kuomintang troop soldiers on the island, including 3 associate general commanders and crossfire then followed. From August 23rd to October 5th, the massive artillery shelling continued, also with airfight and sea battle. Taiwan sent ships to Quemoy for supplies, and a U.S. Fleet 7 escorted with battleships. China insisted on 12 nautical miles for territorial sea, and within which no foreign military vessels permitted access. Yet America said only 3 nautical miles acknowledged. Actually, neither China nor America was willing to engage further in the war. Before the shelling, Chinese leaders asked whether Americans would be in the battle. For U.S. military advisors already deployed to the battalions of Kuomintang Army, and it was supposed that many American stationed among the 100,000 troops on Quemoy Islands. And based on instruction from mainland China, the shellings only targeted on Taiwan's supply ships rather than those escort ships of America, even if the Americans fired first, just held on. American fleet didn't hope to engage the fight with China. When they escorted Taiwan supply ships, they sailed on both sides of suppliers and kept almost 2 nautical miles in distance. When mainland fired, they just turned back and fled away out of the 12 sea territory and left the supply ships under fire and without help, to which the Nationalist Army couldn't do nothing except yelling and blame. Therefore, the mainland knew the bottom line of America. And then told the nationalists to give up U.S. escort. If Americans came together with them, and the mainland would fire. If without the American escort, the supply ships would be alert. From then, artillery shells only took on the odd days rather than on the even days. Supplies resumed. Later, the artillery shelling lingered until October, and mainland China didn't show any sign of massive landing on islands, even though initially that was in the plan or forced the Nationalist Army to leave from the islands. In Sino-US ambassadorial talks in September, Chinese Representative Wang Bingnan said to American, if Taiwan authority evacuated from those coastline islands, China would give up its plan to attack Taiwan. American government then told the nationalists to think it over seriously and said it would be unwise for Taiwan to deploy 1/3 of its troops on the islands so close to the mainland. And America would not provide defense assistance to those islands, and Taiwan could be entrusted to the United Nations. Soviet Union also agreed to American suggestion and preferred a central line in Taiwan Strait for separation of both sides. Yet Taiwan leader Chiang Kai-shek never gave up these islands. With time going, China realized that if the nationalists evacuated from all the coastline islands to Taiwan, then the mainland Taiwan could be totally disconnected by the waters of more than 100 kilometers of the Taiwan Strait. China changed its initial plan and hoped Quemoy and Matsu Islands could be used as connecting ties between two sides. During the military clash for more than 1 month, the mainland totally fired 480,000 shells to Quemoy Island, which lingered for almost 20 years until Sino-US normalization of foreign relations in 1979. All the shells on the islands counted to 1 million, which had been collected by local residents for making our popular products. That's on sale, this Quemoy kitchen knife. After this crisis, both sides of the strait kept on peace until 1995, when Taiwan leader Lee Teng-hui visited America, and the new crisis in 1996. when mainland China carried out missile tests and massive military drills at Taiwan Strait, where two U.S. carriers groups arrived later and showed support to Taiwan. With the crisis mitigation at Taiwan Strait, Quemoy Islands achieved this free exchange with mainland China since 2004. And every year, almost 370,000 visitors came to the islands and greatly promoted the local economy, and even some parts of the drinking water and power supplied from mainland, and closely connected together in daily life. Meanwhile, Taiwan authority was very cautious in investment at the Quemoy Islands. Some projects delayed again and again, and it took almost 10 years for building the Quemoy Bridge. From recent Taiwan news, the new soldiers that just recruited should serve on remote islands, including Quemoy, and based on drawing lots by a ratio of 13:1. They are reluctant to go to the islands due to distance, boring, and loneliness, and the impact of the artillery shelling in history, for it is the most front line at Taiwan Strait. Yet with China's improvement on Navy and Air Forces, its ability at high sea operation and long-range strikes have been boosted, and the new focus was on complete blockade to Taiwan, firepower dominance, airborne forces, and quick landing. The nearby islands such as Quemoy and Matsu are just as symbols rather than high-value targets. Even one day in the future, military clashes or forced reunification occur at Taiwan Strait. The mainland might just encircle and blockade the nearby islands with less troops. Avoid unnecessary waste of power or sacrifice, for there are no naval or air forces on the islands as no threat to the mainland. The coastline islands would be safest place without fight. For the future clash, only focus on the home island of Taiwan. Sure, peace and mutual development are the best wishes for Chinese on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Hope farewell to all the wars in the past and embrace for peace and prosperity in the future. Here comes the end of today's program, and thank you for your watching, and see you next time. Thank you, bye-bye.